YouTube Owen, the Goat House is back after week 6 of the NFL season. Still have Monday Night Football. We'll be talking live during that game on Twitter, of course, like we do every game. But it was a crazy week 6, a bunch of upsets, bunch of unpredictable outcomes, some crazy outcomes, and it felt like it was like weeks 1, 2, or 3, but a lot to go over. I'll give you my takeaways in this video like I do every single Monday. We also have weekly content, all kinds of picks, all kinds of rankings. We got you covered, so join us, like, subscribe to notifications on. Make sure you follow our Twitter. There's a link pinned in the comments for that. Picks League, link down there as well. If you are interested in this chain I'm wearing here, the GLD shop, see underneath me, they have NFL teams and a lot more there. There's a link pinned in the comments for that as well. We have a code GOAT for 33% off. You guys know the drill. Real quick, talk about the Thursday game, which was a shit show, of course. Back-to-back Thursdays, rough back-to-back Thursdays, rough offensive outings, back-to-back Thursdays, rough quarterback outings. Wentz, get a little respect for Wentz, though, because he's playing very beat up. I mean, elbow, bicep, fingers, ankle. He's out there laying blocks, but they're not played super well, obviously. And, yes, a game the Bears could have won. I mean, they were in the red zone, further into the deep in the red zone a couple times early. They should have scored a lot more than 7 points. I thought it was a lot of it was on Fields in this game. Now, people are going to make excuses with the offensive line and the weapons, but they definitely got to be better for sure. Those have to be better for your quarterback to be better, but just a lot of missed throws and just wide open missed throws, not seeing guys that are wide open for touchdowns or big yardage. Holding on to the ball, sitting in the pocket too long. Sometimes he escapes it just because he's a big body, very athletic. A lot of that, I think, with all of that though, I think my biggest problem is he's thinking a little bit too much. He doesn't really, he's like, should I throw this? Should I not throw? A little bit of hesitation, but never really knows when, what type of ball to throw to. A lot of touch passes that should be bullet passes. At the end of the game, Mooney probably should catch that ball, but that ball needs to be a bullet to the outside. He throws a jump ball on the goal line, and you don't see that too often. And obviously a muff punt was a big costly moment in this game as well, but yeah, I'd like to be a little bit more scoring in this game just because the defenses aren't the greatest, and the Bears defense is all right, but you expect them to score a little bit more against the Commanders. But yeah, it was kind of a tough one to watch. It was kind of entertaining in the end though because it came down to being on the goal line basically. But yeah, both teams that just aren't where they need to be. I mean, we expect the Commanders to be a little bit better, but at least they got the win in this one, I suppose. So on to the Sunday games. The Falcons beat the 49ers, so a little bit of a surprising outcome, but the 49ers were very, very beat up and got even more beat up throughout this game. They're just a team that just cannot stay healthy. I mean, it's not just this year thing. It's been a thing in the past. They had some rough years or came up just short because of injuries, and it just seems to be we're at the point where it's like you almost expect it. You hate to say that, hate to think that, but you almost expect it. It's tough. Well, I go back and watch more of this game, and I'm like, obviously the 49ers are a lot better if they're healthier in this game. But a lot of the problems that the Falcons presented, I don't know if I look at a play where Mariota kind of takes off. And Mariota had like 50 yards rushing. It felt like he had a lot more than that. If you watch this game, it felt like, it was just the most crucial moments, it felt like, where he's able to escape and use his legs. And I guess some of them he threw. You kind of forget about that. It just feels like he was running all over the place, and some he takes off. It just felt like he ran for like 200 yards, or he ran for 50 or so yards. But yeah, kind of looking back on those plays, like I don't know. I'm sure the Niners are better if they're fully healthy, 100%. But there's certain big plays in this game where it was like, I'm pretty sure Mariota is making that play even if the Niners are fully healthy. I don't know. So I did see a bit of those. So I was be curious to see how this game ended up if the Niners were healthy. It would probably have been a really, really good game there. But the Falcons, we talked about, they're sneaky. They're pulling off wins. They almost came back on the Bucs last week. They should have beat the Saints in week 1. So even the losses are like, man, they could have won those games. It's kind of just classic Falcon stuff. But, I like that Mariota stepped up, played better, maybe one of the better games of the year. They got Pitts going. That's fantastic. They're missing Cordero Patterson, and they're able to do this. So we talk about the 49ers injuries, and I know they have a lot, maybe the most in football. But the Falcons are, Cordero Patterson, what he means to this offense, them being without him, and they're able to win games, put up fights, pretty impressive. Defense is much better than expected as well. I think even when they hired Dean Pease, I think Dean Pease is a pretty good defensive coordinator. So the Falcons had a pretty good outing here. The 49ers are just very beat up. This is a tough one because they got down 14-0 right away. I wasn't really worried about them, and then they score 14 pretty much right away, to get back to 14 all. Ayuk looked really good, and he got both those touchdowns. And he had a really good route on the second touchdown, so I was impressed with Ayuk. But, and they kind of abandoned the run a little bit too easily, I think, the 49ers, which is weird from Shanahan, but I think it's because they were down. They were trying to save some clock, but, they just tied it up at 14 all just like that. Like, it didn't take much. So, and then they were down by 7 for a bit, 14 for a bit again. Kind of forcing things with Jimmy, and then Jimmy forcing things, which led to interceptions. So, it really beat up. They got outplayed in this game. There were some things that, honestly, the Falcons did very, very well, where it's not really fair to sit here and say, well, the Falcons only did that because the 49ers are beat up. I don't think it's fair to say that. I think sometimes that's the case. Again, yes, the 49ers are a lot better. They're a very good team, maybe the top team in the NFC if healthy. But I think what the things the Falcons presented, the problems the Falcons presented the 49ers were just more credit to the Falcons rather than the 49ers being beat up. That's what I saw. So Falcons a little bit better team than everyone expected, I think. And they're not even close to like a free win, which I think some people thought they would be. So another impressive outing from them. Next game, Patriots, the Browns. Talking about impressive outings, the Patriots continue to put together impressive outings, in this game. And really, the difference was here. I'd say coaching a little bit. Not that I've been ripping Stefanski. I think he's been going away the last few weeks of the games they lost of what's been working for them, and they've been losing very close games, I think, because of that. I think that was kind of the number one issue. Maybe number two is Brissett maybe not being consistent enough and the defense being very underwhelming. That's kind of like 2-3. This game, I don't know if Stefanski was like bad in this game, so I'm not saying one coaching staff was good, one coaching staff was bad. Once again, my problem in the past few weeks has been the Browns are having Brissett throw more times than the Browns are running the ball, and while the running game is working very well, which doesn't make any sense. And Brissett threw a lot more than they ran the ball in this game, but they were playing from down so much in this game, but the run was actually effective. You wouldn't know it because they didn't run enough and they were playing from down. So I do wish they would have kind of equaled that a little bit more, like too much moments putting it in Brissett's hands, which maybe there is a positive in there because it's when they got Deshaun Watson, I kind of worried about Watson coming to this fancy West Coast offense, because usually in those offenses, the play callers, like, they think like they're the guy, like, I'm going to run the show. We're not going to put it in anyone's hands for the most part. And it's mainly run, pass, first, second, third down. So I was a little worried about a little bit. I'm like, I know Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback, and they have a lot of good talented players throughout the roster. So it wasn't like I was panicking or super worried. But that's the positive in all this. They're kind of showing that they're kind of gearing it a little bit more towards the Deshaun Watson offense. The problem is these are very winnable games. This one more so going into the game, not during the game, and they're kind of letting them slip away because they're kind of putting it more so in Brissett's hands. So there's a little positive in there, like I said, but why I said this is more of a coaching reason I thought the Patriots won is because it's just Belichick's and his staff is just much better than what the Browns have. Not so much the Browns did an awful job, but it's just kind of what Bill Belichick does best with his defense is if you have one thing on your offense that kind of carries or is much, much better, is it kind of what holds you up. Belichick is going to do his best job to game plan to take that away, make the team beat them the other way. So in this case, we're gonna try to slow down the run like other teams, and they still were a little effective on the ground though, but they just couldn't do a whole lot of it. But a big piece of it was kind of getting a lead early, and then kind of forcing the Browns to play Brissett ball. And the Patriots, Bill Belichick, know a little bit about Jacoby Brissett, and they know they have a good defense over there in New England, so they kind of just took advantage of that. Credit to Bailey Zappi, he's been playing very, very well. So a tough decision with the Patriots there. I like Mac Jones, but I could see them having maybe a hard time switching while they're on this pretty good run here. I think whoever they play at quarterback next Monday night is, against the Bears. I think they should be solid, mainly because of their defense. But, but been very impressive. Very much improved football team from the very start of the year. And there was some worries going into the year with maybe the play calling. I mean, they've done a really good job. The defense has been stout, outstanding. It's a very good coaching staff led by Bill Belichick. They put their team. There's a great game plan. They put their team, the players, in the best position possible to win the game. But the Browns just didn't have enough again. Home going into this game, you think it's a winnable game, but I just think the difference was the Patriots defense was the best thing on the field, really, and the best coach was Bill Belichick and what the game plan he put together, mainly with his defense there. So Patriots, very impressive. They're rolling. Jets and Packers, 27-10. Jets win that game by 17. Don't think anyone was really expecting that. I know the Jets have been playing pretty good football. This is one of those games where it's like, all right, they're playing more than pretty good football. They're not just getting lucky. We saw maybe some luck has been on their side with some of the wins, but they just completely outplayed the Packers in this game. Really, both sides of the ball. Defense has been locked down. I don't know why the Packers still aren't running the ball. I said it a few times this year. Last week, I'm like, why aren't they running the football? There was like a report going into this game that the Packers will try to focus on Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon more. That didn't happen in this game. I know they were down for a bit, but it was actually, even though it was 27-10, it was actually a very close game for a good portion of this game. So there was really no reason to go against the run. There really is no reason to have Aaron. I know you have Aaron Rodgers, so it's tough, but to not throw that many times. But no reason to be throwing 40 whatever times there when the receivers are struggling. The Jets are very, very solid on defense and the cornerback position specifically. But credit to the Jets offense as well. Really, the play designs and the play calling. We've been saying that. I really like, and it was the LaFleur battle here. I really like how this offense is designed, and it's tricky to game plan for. It's tricky to stop. We're seeing it more and more in a game like this. Misdirection, definitely see a lot of it, and seems to be a problem for the Green Bay Packers as well. Packers defense is supposed to be like top 3, top 5. They haven't really looked like that. There's some issues there, issues getting off blocks, issues reading where the ball's going, issues taking angles and tackling. So was not expecting that from the Packers defense, but that's what we've gotten, especially the last 2 weeks against the New York teams there. It's crazy that just in this game, it just in Lambeau, plain and simple, just looked like the Jets were just the better team. That's just what it looked like, both sides of the ball there. So the Jets, Zach Wilson, who would have thought, Zach Wilson completes 10 passes, throws for, I think he threw for 110 yards, and is going to beat the Packers 27-10. If you would have told me that, I'm like, you're out of your damn mind. You lost your mind, Charlie. Absolutely lost your mind. So and then they beat them by 17. Doing that. So Breece Hall had a big game. They got the weapons there. Jets have been very impressive. The Packers are 3-3. It's very weird. I guess because it's Aaron Rodgers, it's the Packers. You still gotta think they figure it out at some point, right? You would think, but extremely underwhelming on both sides of the ball, really, both sides. I think people bash their offense more, which should be bashed more than the defense for sure, but a lot of people hype this defense up, expect to be top 3, and it's just not there. But the offense got to move the ball a little bit better, keep the defense off, their own defense off the field a little bit longer. That would help. Jags and Colts, another just wild game because a few weeks ago, or week 2, this is week 6. In week 2, the Jags beat the Colts 24-0. 24-0, and this time around the Colts don't have Jonathan Taylor and others like Naheem Hines, and they go and score. They scored 0 last time. They scored 34 this time, so it's not that surprising that the Colts beat them this time around. They're home, but it's surprising how it went down. And a big reason I picked the Jags is because they've been having a pretty good pass rush, and the Colts have not been able to block. But the Colts come out of this game and throw 58 times. They have Matt Ryan throw 58 times. That is the dream for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is the dream. And they can't sack him once. They got pressure. They couldn't sack him once. They got hits on him, but couldn't sack him once. He was getting the ball out pretty quick. It's a pretty good game for Matt Ryan. Just kind of understanding, okay, I don't have much time. I got to get the ball out quick, and being able to throw some tight window passes while under pressure, while getting hit, just big time. But man, the Jags really need to close this game out. They really got to win this game. And you may say that they only had Lawrence was 20. I think he was 20 for 22. Pretty damn efficient. Why didn't they have him throw more? Because they didn't really need to. He did enough. They were running the ball super well. ETN was pretty effective. Hasty had a big run. James Robinson didn't do a whole lot, but you look at his yards per carry, pretty good. They were running the ball very effectively, and they were draining a lot of clock, which that goes together along with being in the lead pretty much most or all of the game. All that goes together. It makes a lot of sense. And it's just, you kind of just let it slip away here. And the Colts have got a lot more offense going than expected. They were really picking on Shaq Griffin. They were getting the ball out quick. It was a good comeback for them. But I think some people may say that, just like, how did they not have Lawrence throw the ball enough? They did enough offensively. They did the right thing. They ran clock. They ran the ball effectively. It's like last time they won 24-0. The Colts are more beat up this time. The Jags really weren't able to run the ball last time. It was one James Robinson run in week 2. That was pretty much it. They're able to run the ball super effectively. Trevor Lawrence is very efficient in this game. Lawrence ran the ball well, too, to add on top of that rushing performance. They have control of the most game, and they can't close it out. So we're kind of going back to, I think they're a little more dangerous than the old Jags, but it almost feels like the same old Jags, where it's like you can't trust them to close out games. Kind of everything's going right in the game, and they can't close it out. And as the season weird things happen early on. They hold the Colts to 0 points early on, and now they let them get 34 as the season starts to take shape, and you kind of go, I guess it's pretty much the same old Jags. And they're not. They used to be a free win at times. They're definitely not that. They're a little difficult to deal with sometimes, but it's just, in a way, it's almost the same old Jags, so it's pretty tough. But credit to Matt Ryan clutching up. I love the balls. I'm going to be getting ripped for that comment in the comments, but I love the balls on Frank Reich. At the end of the game, taking that shot. Let's not rely on a kicker. Too many teams play for field goals. They rely on a kicker. I love that, and I've been saying it the whole time. I think Frank Reich's a pretty good offensive-minded coach there, and he's been getting ripped, but really. There's been a lot of injuries. There's been an execution problem, and I don't know if they've been supplied with the best of talent that they can possibly get. It's one thing if you do what you possibly can do, but so I thought it was a really good game from Frank Reich. Without Jonathan Taylor in there, Deion Jackson steps up, and they find ways for Matt Ryan to get the ball a little quicker because the pressure's coming. It's the big thing is just not one sack for the Jags. 58 times and you can't get them. That's a reason, other teams been giving the Colts problems. So that's a tough one. And that's where a good example of where, I say it all the time. I think, like 5 years ago or more, I think people overrated sacks, based on, all right, let's see who had the most sacks. That's the best pass rusher in football. These are the best teams in football who had the most sacks. I think they kind of overrated it. And then, different analytics and, PFF come along and they, pump out pressure, hype up pressure, and pressure is very important. And I think people at one point it kind of flipped, like people don't pay attention to sacks, and it's all about pressure, whoever gets the most pressure. And now I think pressure is overrated. I think we need to split in the middle of there somewhere because the difference between getting pressure and actually getting the quarterback down is significant. The Colts throw 58 times in this game. The Jags did not get him down once. They got pressure, they got hits, they didn't get him down once. One sack at some point during this game could have been Jags win because they had control of this game the whole time. So I think it's a pretty good example of it there. But another clutch win from the Colts, much needed, and it's looking like once again the Titans and the Colts battling, who play each other this week for the AFC South. So it's just the same old stuff there. Vikings and Dolphins. Dolphins beat up obviously coming in this game. Skylar Thompson's got a play, then he gets knocked out of the game, and Teddy Bridgewater comes in. So that's a pretty good QB 3 or 2, whatever you want to call it, but third option. And Teddy had an all right game. He threw for a lot of yards. They probably got Tyreek Hill going a little too late. I actually said it at one point while watching this game. I was like, all right, they're going to start taking shots at Tyreek Hill or getting him downfield in space. Literally, it was weird. Right when I said that, I think the next play they did it, and they kept trying to do it, and it was working. I just wish they kind of tried it a little earlier because the Vikings don't have the best defense in the world. The Dolphins moved the ball like they scored like 40 points. They scored 16. So the Vikings clutched up and made some plays. A little bit of luck on their side in this one, I think, as well. But they made plays. Harrison Smith ends up with that interception. I think he knocked the ball loose from Waddle. Both mistakes by Waddle. You see Waddle with Tua. Where's my hand? Up here. And then Waddle without Tua, I'm not so impressed. It's weird. It's very strange. So some mistakes from him there. The Dolphins, it really could have been a different game. That last fumble by Waddle could have been a different game. The Dolphins' defense was very impressive. They sacked Kirk 3 times. The Vikings' pass protection's been very solid this year. The Vikings were getting great field position. And the Dolphins were stopping them 3 and out. The Vikings figured something out as this game went on a little bit. I think they went away from the run way too easily. Like early, there was some runs that were like one carry for 0 yards, one for 1 yard, maybe 2 yards, and they kind of just went away from it way too easy. So they were in predictable pass situations, which resulted in some sacks that we're not used to seeing here. So I don't know if I loved Kevin O'Connell's game in this one, but they did pull it off. I mean, I love the play designs. I just hate abandoning the run, and at the end, they give Cook another shot, and he breaks a very nice run for a touchdown, which pretty much was the game then. So I did not like they abandoned the run a little bit. But it was weird. It was a weird game because you look at the numbers. The Dolphins won the time of possession by a good amount. They killed the Vikings in yards, but they lost 24-16. So it's like, how the hell did that happen? I guess a turnover difference. The Vikings did usually in those types of games. It's like, well, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say usually, but the Vikings did have control of this game most of the time. That's why it was weird the Dolphins kind of dominated in those categories, but they let this one slip away. It's just unfortunate they have not been healthy in this one. The thing I like about the Vikings, I still don't think their defense is good, but they clutched up, I guess, with getting turnovers in the red zone. That's not what I was going to say, though. The thing my favorite thing about the Vikings so far this year is, well, right now they're 5-1. I don't know if they're as good as that label. I think this defense really, you can move the ball on. There's been times where their offense has slowed down, so I'm still not fully in on this being a true 5-1 team. But the thing I do love, let me finally get to it, is that when the Vikings absolutely need a touchdown, they need points, it seems like they go and get it all year so far. It's only been 6 games, but pretty much all year. And there's not too many teams. You can count on one hand too many teams that kind of have that to their game. So that is easily the highlight of the Minnesota Vikings so far. Even though if I'm a little cautious with them, are they truly this 5-1 team? If not, they're not far off. And really they're 5-1, so it is kind of silly to say. But that's what I do love about them. When they absolutely need to do some damage offensively, they do it. So I do love that. But the Dolphins, hopefully they can get healthy because this is a little frustrating probably. And they play the Steelers on Sunday Night Football coming up, so that's a winnable game. But just too many mistakes in this one. That was kind of the difference in there. Their defense played a pretty good game, though. Bengals and Saints, I think kind of another weird one because going into it, if you remember my takes, my predictions, I was very confident with the Bengals. Maybe more confident than people would expect, maybe a little surprising just because the Bengals have been struggling. The Saints are kind of in the same boat. It's in New Orleans. It almost felt like a game probably to a lot of people that can go either way, but I was pretty much almost a lock with the Bengals for multiple reasons because the Saints are pretty depleted, like half the roster's out. Not really half, but you get my point. But matchup, the Bengals kind of just thrive off a lot of, a team that runs a lot of man coverage and keeping that. With that, the Saints defense has actually been struggling a little bit too. So this was a good shot. And going back, Joe Burrow going back to Louisiana, I thought, played a little bit of a part. It doesn't mean a whole lot at all, but I think it played a little bit of a part. So all those reasons I liked. I really liked the Bengals in this game. And part of that was kind of true because I did have the Bengals scoring 30 points in my prediction. And then you can see they kind of feasted off the one-on-ones, the man coverage, Jamar Chase on the sideline. So that kind of was right. But the game really did not go the way I really planned it, even though there were some parts that were right on that. Really how this game went, the Saints really should have won the game, I think. The biggest difference, and the Bengals they took advantage of those things, of the man coverage and Saints being out. They made big-time plays. Joe Burrow made some great throws. Chase made some plays. Mixon was pretty effective, even though he didn't run a lot of times. And they clutched up in the end when they needed to, so credit to the Bengals there. But the biggest difference in this game, which we can credit the Bengals as well, was the Saints getting field goals instead of touchdowns, which we can credit the Bengals' red zone defense, I suppose, or inside, the 30-yard line inside. But the Saints, if you watch this game, the Saints were in the Bengals. It felt like the entire game, and they won the time of possession as well. They were in the Bengals' territory, in the red zone, the entire game. Like how easily they were getting to the 50-yard line, the 40-yard line. Like it was so easy for the Saints. That I was like, what? This Bengals defense is supposed to be a lot better than this, and the Saints defense is supposed to be a lot better than that, but they are very beat up. I mean, Lattimore being out is huge, but so the Saints just getting field goals in a lot of those was just the difference. If they could have turned one of those into touchdowns, you got a touchdown, you had a whole different game. So that was the difference. This one, the Saints should find a way to win this game. They couldn't really do it. probably should have. It's tough. They probably should have got Kamara the ball a little bit more because he's been super effective. But maybe they're not trying to overdo it with him, which I guess kind of makes a little bit sense. Last 2 weeks he's been very effective though, which is good to see. But you got to find ways to close games out, which they did last week. So, but this one specifically. But the Bengals clutch up and win this game. But, yeah, I thought it was weird because, in a way, it kind of went like I had the Bengals scoring 30. I thought they were going to take advantage with Chase, specifically with that man coverage on towards the sideline with Joe Burrow. But it didn't really go down exactly how the whole game in general. Like, the Saints probably should have won this game here. But that is definitely – sometimes you say that where it's like the other team got lucky. No, I don't really think that. The Bengals clutch up. They were talented in this game. They deserve credit in this game for sure. It's just the Saints kind of hurt themselves a little bit with not executing, but not fully executing. So that's really my thoughts on that one. Next, Ravens and Giants. The Giants win again. They were 5-1. I think the crazy thing about this one is, Daniel Jones didn't do a whole lot. Threw for 170 or so, 175. It might have been yards. They've been dominant on the ground this year, but Barkley was averaging 3 yards or so, 3.2 top of my head yards per carry. And I know 2.7, I think, or it could be 2.6 is the exact number yards per carry on the ground for the Giants. Their leading receiver was Bellinger, a rookie tight end at 36 receiving yards. You put all that together, Giants beat the Ravens. Like you tell me that, like you're out of your damn mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. You're losing it. But they go and win the game. And the defense has been very impressive. We talked about, could Don Martindale, former Ravens defense coordinator, be a problem? And it's his just his knowledge on defense, but his knowledge, I guess, against Lamar Jackson, that type of offense, and that ended up being a big factor. And this defense just flies around the field. They did have a big problem with Kenyon Drake, though. I mean, Kenyon Drake was getting out in space. Maybe they were predicting plays wrong, but he was kind of getting after it, running by guys, which was weird to see. Not that he isn't a good player, but it's just very strange to see. And maybe the Ravens should have got him going a little bit more. Like, it was weird because Dobbins could not do anything, but you got Kenyon Drake going wild. So maybe they should have got Drake the ball a little bit more. But the Giants defense, other than dealing with Drake, pretty impressive, and Andrews is pretty solid as well. But they gave Lamar Jackson problems, especially in the end. So the defense really clutched up. But I like the offense didn't do a whole lot, but I like extending drives and getting, scheming guys open in space and rolling that clock and, doing things like that. And then Barkley clutching up in key situations, even though he didn't have that monster game that we're used to. So I like that. It's a very well-coached team on both sides of the ball. So it looks really good what they brought in. But, yeah, the Ravens, I mean, it's tough at this point. I mean, they have 3 losses, and they choked all 3 of those games away. They absolutely choked them away. So at this point, it's like consistent. Usually consistency used as a good thing. They're consistently not able to close out games is a very bad thing. So, yeah, once, maybe twice, it's kind of a fluke, but now this is kind of the Ravens. This is kind of who you feel the Ravens are, and it's pretty hard to, they're a good team. They're going to win some games. They might win a lot of games, but it's just, are we going to trust them to win, go on a streak? Are we going to trust them to consistently beat the best teams in the playoffs when they're capable of this? And no, I'm not. Again, very good team. They should be capable of doing those things, but it's just not going to happen, really. They can get a lot better. They can start closing out games more, but, they can very well be in the playoffs because they're that good of a team. But are they going to go and play Chargers-like team or a Chiefs or a Bills or a whoever it is in the first round of the playoffs and then go play another one of those teams in the second round of the playoffs and then go play another and close out every single one of those games? I'm just going to say no. I'm just going to say they're not, So they kind of got that label right now. I know people call him Fire Harbaugh. I'm not going to call it a Fire Harbaugh. He's a fantastic coach. He's made some questionable decisions. A lot of coaches have made more. He's just not closing out games, and it's a different reason every game. It's not like it's the same reason every game. Lamar's got to do a little better job at the end of this game. Brutal interception, and then held the ball too long. Should have known, Thibodeau was coming. Should have felt him on his back and just held the ball very loose. Gets knocked out. So, but they can't really get the run game going. Consistently. I know Drake ran for a lot of yards, but it's like they can't get Dobbins going. They just don't feel as strong as they were in the past. Running the ball. But even though they were pretty effective, they had some yards in this specific game. But yeah, just not enough of the threats out there in receiving game as well, besides Mark Andrews. So, but that's a tough part as well. I thought the defense did their part. Couple good drives by the Giants, I suppose, but it's just a tough one for the Ravens. The Giants move on to 5-1. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that they're 5-1, but they're a very well coached team. They know how to get the job done. They got some solid players, and the rest of the upcoming part of the schedule is fairly easy too. So could the Giants continue to win? Can the Ravens figure out how to close out games? Those are the big questions. This one, Ravens got to have their quarterback too, which is not really. It was kind of a thing for the first time last week. Got after the quarterback. Like, how you can't close these games out, it's pretty mind-blowing. So I don't know. I really don't know. Buccaneers and Steelers, maybe the biggest surprise end result of the weekend, of the surprise game outcome of the week 6 here. It was the Steelers beating the Buccaneers, and it just, the difference in talent, keep in mind the Steelers with their injuries. I know the Bucs have some injuries as well, but no TJ Watt. But looking at the matchup as well, it's like, the Bucs play pretty tough defense. They blitz. They're going to have these quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett being the guy coming in this game, really rattled. And that was a big reason I picked the Bucs. But I guess what we forgot to think about is the Bucs offense versus Steelers defense. The Bucs offense has been struggling, and they're struggling to protect Brady. They're struggling to get the run game going, and the Steelers kind of expose those things even further. The crazy part is the Steelers were missing guys on defense, some key guys on defense as well. Not just Watt, guys in the secondary as well, and it's just weird. The Bucs just can't get much going there. So I don't know really what the solution is here. The receivers aren't playing that great, but even though they have weapons, but Brady under a lot of pressure, they can't get the run game going much. Do they try to add a running back? You think Fournette could be a stud though? It's very strange. But it's like they're creeping back in. The Steelers kind of just keep on staying on top. And, Pickett, we see that. How about Trubisky? How about Trubisky coming in, getting thrown in the game, and just clutching up? He had a 3rd and 16 where he threaded the needle, into traffic. Beautiful throw. Hit some sideline throws. Just looked like he looked smarter than he has been. He looked better in general than he has been. So it was very, against a Bucs defense, that Pickett had way more attempts than Trubisky and had less than half the yards. So Trubisky, I know it was weird that Trubisky just came in and did those things and clutched up. He deserves a lot of credit there, and that was a big reason they closed the game out. So who's going to be the starter going forward? We'll see if Pickett even gets out of concussion protocol. It's just wild. It's just absolutely wild. The Bucs, it's weird. It's very strange right now. Just not the same Bucs. NFC doesn't really have too many powerhouses. They got some. They don't have too many powerhouses. And the Bucs aren't one of them. It's kind of weird. Will they get there? Again, it's weird. Panthers and Rams. This one was interesting for a little bit, mainly because the Rams, Stafford gave the Panthers the only touchdown, which wasn't the worst throw in the world, but Dante Jackson picked it off, returned it for 6. They were winning for a little bit there. They ended up being staying true as their only touchdown. They didn't have one offensive touchdown in the game. And you had Robbie Anderson shenanigans on the sideline, and now he just got traded right before going to record this to the Cardinals. A little bit of a mess over there still in Carolina. They were in this game, though. They just got to get more offense. McCaffrey had a good game, just relying on that. P.J. Walker kind of dinking and dunking a little bit too much. You wish you kind of take a shot there, but it is what it is. Panthers it's just like another week saying the Panthers they just don't have enough. They don't have enough, but it's like weird because they have enough playmakers. They just don't have enough. They're not putting enough out there right now, so it's tough. Defense played a pretty good game. Stafford, still a little bit of, do they need to throw the ball as much as they're throwing it? They could have ran Henderson a little bit more. There's not much of a run game plan with them. I said that last week. But they got the job done there. Skoranek scores on a jet sweep, which is kind of funny, but they get the job done. It was a little scary, and for a while they were losing. It's like the Rams are losing the Panthers right now. Could this be a Bucs-Steelers situation? But they find a way to clutch up, get the job done. Still haven't been thrilled with the Rams. It's a good time to have a bye week, though, even though it's off a win. Kind of regroup, get everything together here. I know Noteboom went down this game, so we'll see. Cardinals-Seahawks. Seahawks are going to score 19 and win the game. What if you said that before the game? I'd say you're out of your damn mind. You're losing it. No, that's not going to happen. The Seahawks scored 19 and beat the Cardinals 19-9. I know the Cardinals' offense has been struggling, but I thought this was the time. They're playing statistically the second worst defense in football. This is the time for the Cardinals, they got playmakers all over the place to get going. We know they have a good defense. The defense definitely did enough. There was some pretty good drives that kind of got things going there for Seattle. But overall, the Cardinals' defense did enough. But I think probably I don't know the word I'm looking for here. overused. To me, it's wrong and it's overused. There's a word that I've probably never used in my vocabulary to explain it, but I think a lot of people out there are going, this is Kingsbury's fault. I think some people are probably going, it's a collection of people's fault, but I think it's a lot of it. I see a lot of fans, it's Kingsbury, and I think maybe some people that aren't Cardinals fans out there saying it, and I think it is the most misleading, maybe is a good word, most misleading. I think it's wrong that he's kind of the scapegoat here. I do not. Is Cliff Kingsbury a great coach? No, I'm not saying that. Is he calling perfect games? Definitely not saying that. But it is the most misleading, one of the most misleading things. Like, this is not on Kingsbury. It is not on him. I think, it's expected though when people want to blame something. They don't want to blame the quarterback. They don't want to blame the weapons. It's either usually the play caller or the offensive line is what people want to blame. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. I don't think, Kingsbury isn't great. I don't think this is his fault. I know it's not his fault, actually, because I think people blame him for not taking field goals and we're winning this game. And, well, first off, if you haven't been watching the Cardinals, especially last week, this week, Prater's out, who's a pretty good kicker. They have Amendola in there. He missed a overtime clinching field goal last week. He missed an extra point in this week. He misses kicks. You cannot trust him. So understanding not kicking those, I understand just by that alone not kicking these field goals. And then you could say, well, he probably would have made one, maybe two, maybe. I mean, still not enough. You could have been closer in the game, though. But then the big thing is what you factor in is you have Kyler Murray, who has all the tools. He has crazy scrambling ability. He's a very athletic. I don't need to explain Kyler Murray for you, especially when you have these 4th and shorts. It's very difficult for defenses to deal with. The main focus is trying to keep him in the pocket, try to keep him from scrambling. You have all these speedy receivers, and you have Ertz at tight end. So it's difficult, especially for the second worst defense statistically in football, to deal with all these things. So what is Kingsbury going to do? I'm not going to trust my kicker because I shouldn't trust my kicker. I'm going to trust my talented quarterback with legs to buy time, either run for a first down or buy receivers open. I'm going to trust my weapons here. I know a guy like Connor's out, but they have speedy weapons here. I'm going to trust it. Going against, again, a very bad defense. He's going to trust it. And 100% I trust it. You should trust it. Maybe not now going forward, but with all of those things, don't trust the kicker. Trust all of what you have on the field there. Believe that can work, and it just didn't work. And it's not because Kingsbury, he's on the sideline. It's because what's happening on the field there. And you look at the first one, start the game, they go down the field very easily. So then you have you end up having a 4th and short, or whatever near the goal line. You just move the ball super easily. You got a shitty kicker. You're playing against a very bad defense. That's why you move the ball easily. It's why you should be able to continue to move the ball. Yes, you go for it. And you just don't get the job done. And leading up to that one, Murray had a play where he was scrambling. He got outside the pocket. It's a freebie to throw the ball away because you're outside the pocket, and he just runs straight out of bounds for a -4 yards. I think they were like at the 2 or 3 yard line to back it up. This is like, I don't even expect high school quarterbacks to make that mistake. You got outside the pocket, throw the ball away. Let me just take a 4-yard loss. So that set up the 4th down a little more difficult as well. And then you got another one later, 4th and 2. Murray drops back and just launches it up for grabs in the end zone when you just need 2 yards. And, not only was it a stupid decision to go deep and just launch it, it was up for grabs. It should have been picked, but it was a good thing it wasn't picked because the Seahawks have better field position then. It was a pickable ball. They had a 4th and 2 later. The Seahawks get quick interior pressure, but Murray forgets he has legs. There was zero edge presence. They crashed the inside. Get outside, you run for more than 2 yards that you need. So it's just things that Kingsbury is trusting his quarterback, and it's more than just on Murray too. I mean, the receivers drop the ball; they're running backwards after they get the ball. The interior pressure they're allowing is not good, obviously. So it's not on one guy whatsoever, but he's trusting them to use their talent and get the job done, and they most certainly are not. So I am not at all blaming, and I think it's something I'm not even going to put up for debate. It's just not Kingsbury's fault in this game. It's just what people say when they don't want to blame. We'll use Murray as an example, the quarterback, and other people see that who aren't watching the game like, oh, it must be Kingsbury's fault. So it's really getting pushed out there way too much, and it's pretty misleading there. So players got to play better. They just went and traded for Robbie Anderson, but Hollywood Brown's going to be out for the year. So do you actually get better? No, you don't, but it's good to get a got like Anderson in there who fits the system. But they got to figure something out. It's extremely one of the more disappointing things on the year is that offense. Defense has been solid. Credit to the Seahawks defense for stepping up, holding the Cardinals to 9 points. Very impressive. And their only touchdown wasn't on offense. It was on special teams, which that's kind of been a problem for the Seahawks as well, the punt team specifically. But, I mean, the Seahawks only scored 19, but credit to their offense, making plays, Geno extending drives, using his legs, making plays. I think DK saved an interception early in this game. I thought that was actually pretty key in this game where it's kind of close. But yeah, making plays. Kenneth Walker was tough for the Cardinals to bring down. That's kind of the problem. Cardinals defense been very stout, but I thought Walker gave them some problems. So fantastic outing for the rookie. So Seahawks, they are a very sneaky team. Very sneaky team. It's a good division win at home here, winning with some defense and the offense extending some drives there. Bills and Chiefs, very entertaining game, but I think a lot of people expected them to score in the 30s. I actually had them both in the 20s, but it ended up being less than even what I expected, so a lot more defense. And that's kind of good to see that both these teams can clutch up and play some defense. That's pretty scary because we know these are the two big dogs in the AFC, but that makes it even more scary. They're able to get pass rush on each other, able to just make clutch plays. I think both these defenses are very well coached too. I like both defensive coordinators here. But I mean, really, it's pretty simple. This game was, I'd say there's two differences. But number one is just the turnover difference. You've got two super talent. I mean, the best in football. It's the MVP race right now for me. In Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, elite talents, special talents. But turnovers could happen, and that was kind of the difference in this one is that, Allen didn't even have a turnover. Their turnover was if you want to put that on Allen, I debatable, but that fumble early on, and then Mahomes threw 2 picks and one to kind of end the game when you thought a minute left, he's going to go down and win the game. It's too much time. It is too much, even though what happened, it's too much time for Mahomes. So that was kind of the difference. So I'm definitely not trying to at all blame Mahomes or anything, but that's my point is that was the difference this game. When you got two heavyweights going at each other, one turns the ball over 2 times, one turns it over once. The team that turned it over 2 times probably going to lose the game, so that's kind of a big difference. But another thing I look at in this game, what was the difference? What was the difference on the field? But kind of backtracking a little bit, what's the difference between these two teams, the two heavyweights of the AFC, maybe the two heavyweights of the NFL? You look at this team piece by piece going into this game. What is the difference? I mean, they both got the best quarterbacks in football. You can debate. It doesn't matter. It's pretty damn even. Who's better? It doesn't even matter because it's so damn even. And then you look at the running games. It's not their specialty. They're pretty damn even. Offensive line, I'd probably give to the Chiefs. Obviously, you look at the receivers. You probably give it to the Bills, mainly because they have Stephon Diggs in there. But you have Kelsey over there with the Chiefs, so it makes it interesting. So get the point. Right now it's pretty even. You look at defense. You look at the secondary. You probably give the edge to the Bills, but keep in mind they don't have Hyde and they don't have White, so it's pretty close to even. I like the way both of them are coached as well. But then you finally find that between rosters, finally find the difference, and that is, and the Chiefs got some pass rushers, but you got Von Miller. The Chiefs do not have Von Miller. And then Matt Milano, the Chiefs do not have Matt Milano. And then you look at in this game what those two players do. Like, Matt Milano flying all over the field, making the key tackles, and he's been the best linebacker in football this year for sure. And Von Miller getting key pressure, making Mahomes getting the ball out earlier than he wants to, helping create those turnovers. That is the difference in this game. Throughout these talented teams, talented rosters, the slight difference that I find ended up being a Von Miller and a Matt Milano, two things that the Chiefs do not have, and they just happen to be on the field. That big of a difference there. So I thought that was interesting as well, kind of the turnover battle, in which those guys kind of go into that as well, and just having the slight difference in elite powerhouse between the elite powerhouse teams there. So the Bills clutch up. Kind of going back though to the actual plays on the field when the Bills had to go put together a winning drive, and they did so. I like that they put one together at the end of the half. The Chiefs ended up putting it together a 62-yard field goal drive there, which was impressive by Butker coming in. So just those teams that when they have to go score, they go and score. The Bills do it at the end of the game. They actually had a 4th down they had to convert, which ended up seeming pretty easy with that Allen sneak keeper, but they had to go do it. It was getting a little scared for the Bills though. Before that, they gave the ball to Singletary, who ran pretty effectively in this game, but couldn't get the first in short yardage, and then they got him the ball outside, which I did not love the call, And because I don't like going outside in short yardage, I don't know if it was necessary. And you were kind of putting the game into Singletary's. And you have Josh Allen, you have Stephon Diggs. You're kind of putting even though he had an effective game, you were kind of putting the game in Singletary's hands for a bit there. So if they didn't convert that fourth down, I would have ripped them for that. I would have ripped them for that one. So that's the only knock there. But just feels like we're going to see these teams again in the playoffs, maybe the AFC Championship games. So and it could be. I'd say it's going to be a lot more scoring if they play again. I think these teams try to, not throw everything out design wise, play call wise, maybe right now. So. Could be a different game. Maybe the outcome. I'm not necessarily saying the outcome of who wins, but I think how it goes down really. So we'll see them again. I'm pretty sure. Cowboys and Eagles. Yeah, interesting game because the Eagles looked like they were going to whoop their ass for a little bit. I was like, wow, this is wild here. And then the Cowboys fight back and they start looking pretty good. And they actually had a shot in this game, and even though it ended up 26-17. Even though with the mistakes the Cowboys made, that was the difference. That's the difference. The turnovers, the mistakes that they made, and that's like, yeah, they were kind of still in the game though. So it's like it's a bad thing. You can't make those mistakes. I know they're with their backup quarterback, but can't make those mistakes. But it's kind of the good thing. Like they were still prime time in Philly, the best team in football right now. With our backup quarterback, we made stupid mistakes that we normally don't make. And we could have won that game, or we could have been closer in that game. So it's kind of a little bit of a positive in there in that one. And why I say not just turnovers, mistakes, that offsides early in this game was killer, absolutely killer for the Cowboys because it was about to be a field goal. I don't know how you go offsides in that moment. It was about to be a field goal, ends up being a touchdown. So not only is that a 4-point swing, but you let them start with the first touchdown of the game. You lose some momentum. You give them some momentum, get the crowd going. Prime time Sunday Night Football in Philly. Brutal crowd, obviously. Big time home field advantage. That offsides was way bigger than what anyone's talking about right now. If that offsides doesn't happen, I think less Cowboys mistakes happen. I think this game's a lot different, and that's not me saying the Cowboys win. They win. No, I'm not saying that at all. I think it's a lot different there. Just bad mistakes from the Cowboys throughout this game, which again, there's kind of a positive in there somewhere that. Hey, if we don't make the mistake, it's a whole different game. And if we have our star quarterback, and then maybe it's a whole different game. So I think Cowboys are going to be all right. They got to, stay more disciplined, not make those mistakes. Diggs ripping his helmet off as well, things like that. But I think they'll be fine in the long run. The Eagles keep on winning. It's just tough to keep on winning this game. Everything kind of went their way in this game, though. If there was a knock, which is hard to find a knock in this one, it's, again, hard to stay undefeated. I like the clutch plays on both sides of the ball. They are very difficult to deal with their offense and their defense. I like Jonathan Gannon's a really good defensive coach, too. Talk about Dan Quinn, maybe the best in football. That defense is ridiculous. But I like Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles. I just noticed some plays that are just very defensively that are just very unpredictable. I mean, not just how they use Reddick and how they generate pressure. They got some really good pressure on rush, which teams have not been able to do surprisingly much of. But just coverages, like one example, I noticed like a cover 3 moment where usually cover 3, the corner has the side third, obviously. The free safety has the middle third, and the other corner has the third on the side. So it's pretty straightforward on why it's cover 3. But they got these, where they really change it up. They take the safety, and he has kind of the side third, and they mix it up. And, corner's got a third on the one sideline. And it's just really, you can't really predict that. Offense can't really predict. It's just one tiny example. You can't really predict those things. So I like the different disguises, how you change it up. So it's a very well-coached defense, a very solid defense. The defense has been very good in general for the Eagles. But the 2 primetime games, Vikings, pretty good offense. Cowboys, pretty good offense. Well-called offense. Pretty ridiculous outings for the Eagles defense in those games. But the one thing is though, the one thing, maybe slight knock, hard to knock them, but everything was kind of going their way this game. The Eagles the Cowboys getting that offside, just free 7 points, and then we turn it over right after that, or they have that 4th down, which the Cowboys probably converted, and I don't know why they got on the ball to do that and to throw that play, and the Eagles, here's free points again. So things kind of went the Eagles' way. I would like for them to there shouldn't really be a point where like the Cowboys can come back and win this game. There really shouldn't be that point. Things went your way. You're home, prime time. You're a very dominant team. go put him away. So if I had a knock on the Eagles, that'd be it. But it's very difficult to continue to keep on winning here in this league, especially seeing all these upsets, so they get the job done. These corners been really good. Bradbury been very good. Slay, obviously. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he got his hands on the ball twice. He got one last week as well, so he's been on fire quite a bit, and it looks like a really good – we knew it was a good trade because they didn't trade much for him. That's looking pretty good. Again, I like how they use the guys in different ways as well. It's a very tough defense to deal with, especially pre-snap, which people don't really realize right away. But, I think the Cowboys are going to be all right. It's a really good football team. There's not too many top teams in the NFC. I think these two teams are top teams in the NFC. I still think they're the best two teams. And we know the Eagles. I still think that maybe the Cowboys could be that second best team still. So just based on what's going on in the rest of the league. But, a better record, the Vikings and the Giants, even though the Cowboys beat the Giants, so maybe they're coming. We'll see. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. We got this video every single Monday. We have weekly videos all the time. We got score predictions, picks, power rankings, a lot more. So join us, like, subscribe to notifications on. Maybe an updated mock draft coming soon. So join us for all that. Any important links that you're looking for pinned in the comments. Very important to follow that Twitter there. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.